Hi everybody and welcome to the channel. My name is Ray and today I am joined by Alice as Bob could not make it, unfortunately. We are on a journey together to discover how to noodle musically. In other words, pick up the guitar and play something unpracticed and unplanned and still sound good. I call this next level noodling. Now, often while noodling you will also discover little licks or phrases and melodies that will become part of your own personal vocabulary. Today we are taking the major scale further and discussing modes. Now you should already know that there are 7 notes on the bassline major scale, and for every note of the scale there is a mode. The first, or Ionian mode, is what most people refer to as the major scale. It has got the intervals root, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. This is what I call the bassline major scale, which is the same as the Ionian mode because it starts on the first interval of the bassline major scale. The second mode, Dorian, starts from the second interval of the bassline major scale. So its intervals are root, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, and we're back at the root. Notice that although we are using the same bassline major scale pattern, the set of intervals is different because we are starting and ending at the second interval. The third mode, Phrygian, starts from the third interval of the bassline major scale. So its intervals are root, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, and we're back at the root. And so on. We can do the same thing for the other modes. Each mode is just an offset into the bassline major scale pattern, and by virtue of that fact each mode has its own pattern of intervals. Now, if you already know the bassline major scale, which is the Ionian mode, then you can play any other mode simply by starting on the second or the third or any of the other 7 notes of the bassline major scale. On the guitar fretboard, using all fourths tuning, the different modes look like this. The first mode is C Ionian. The second mode is D Dorian. The third mode is E Phrygian. The fourth mode is F Lydian. The fifth mode is G Mixolydian. The sixth mode is A Aeolian. And the seventh mode is B Locrian. Now, technically speaking, the root of a mode determines its key. So we were actually looking at each mode in its own key. You could say that we can play a musical phrase in C Ionian by starting on the first interval of the bassline major scale and then switch to D Dorian by playing the same notes only starting on the second interval of the bassline major scale. But that all takes a fair amount of mental overhead when all you're really doing is playing the same 7 notes but just from a different offset. Look, if you want to sound fancy, you can say you're doing tonicization or modulation, which is a type of key change in a song. But really all you're doing is picking a different set of notes from the bassline major scale pattern. It's the same notes on the fretboard. What all this means is that you can play a musical phrase starting anywhere on the scale and it will sound good. It won't necessarily sound great, but it won't sound bad. That is the great feature of the major scale. And not only will it sound good, but each mode has its own musical character, because the pattern of intervals for every mode is different. And the reason each mode's pattern is different is simply because we're starting the bassline major scale from a different offset. Now, the way our brains respond to music is a very interesting and large subject, something I'll try and delve into deeper in another video. For example, according to this video by Adam Neely, the slowest rhythm we humans respond to is around 33 beats per minute, or about 2 seconds. After 2 seconds, new information is not necessarily linked to previous information. It is seen as a new phrase or a new piece of music. Another interesting response we seem to have is that it is possible to establish a frame of reference by precedence and by repetition. For example, by playing a certain note first and by repeating it, we can establish that note as our frame of reference or root note. So to get back to modes, I'm going to play 2 phrases on the same bassline major scale, but one is going to use the Ionian or first mode and the other one is going to use the Aeolian or 6th mode. I'm going to anchor the starting note in my brain as a root note by playing it first and repeating it. This tells my brain that this is now the root note, according to which all the other notes are going to be evaluated. Then I'm going to take a break longer than 2 seconds to clear the cache, so to speak, and play the second mode. So, to recap, modes are just a fancy way of saying we are playing the same scale but from different positions. If you can play the bassline major scale, then you can actually play all 7 modes as well. In the next video, we are going to be using modes to understand how to play chords all over the fretboard. With every mode, there is a set of chords associated with them. And using all fourths tuning, the shape of these chords do not change anywhere on the fretboard. So once you know the 7 modes and their chords, you can play them anywhere on the fretboard using all fourths tuning. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to feed the algorithm. It'll help to build the channel. I'm going to conclude this video once again by playing along with a looper and just noodling along and seeing how that turns out. Till next time.